What's going on, guys? It's John Shea from the No Shame Income blog, and today I'm actually going to talk about my experience with doing joint venture partnerships. And generally this has been in the internet marketing niche, joining up with people to launch products, start business ventures, whatever the case. Wanted to share a few of the examples that I've been through, talk about some of the partners I've had, and just what some of my general experiences were dealing with that. And at the end of this video, you'll actually be able to check out, I've got a link below where I actually have a full-blown course where I show lots of live examples of some of the partnerships. I talk a lot more about them in depth, and that's something you can check out as well. But I guess to give you some perspective, one of the very first partnerships I did was with someone by the name of Vinny Bach. He actually had launched an internet marketing product, in regards to SEO and Fiverr. And I approached him with the idea of rehashing that program and turning it into a fully fledged membership site. Initially that went fairly well. I would say some of the downfalls were that, he wouldn't show up to phone calls. There were a couple cases where I'd actually blow off my girlfriend, just to meet him on a Skype chat or something, and, would literally be like, yeah, we're watching this TV show, and I'd be like, hey, I got my call with Vinny. I'd go leave, and I'd actually jump on the computer, and I'd be waiting there for 5 minutes, and he'd be a complete no-show. So that's the first thing when it comes to finding a partner, I would say, is finding someone who's going to be reliable, and finding someone who is always going to be able to, really just work with you on a consistent basis, at least once a week. And ultimately that turned into something where it was very passive. We were able to publish a course on a platform called Udemy. I actually talk about it quite a bit in some of my other videos, so check those out. But we ended up eventually publishing the course on Udemy, and it's very, very passive, where the platform essentially just makes us both some money, and we split all the royalties evenly. I literally have not talked to him in over a year or two, and that course still makes us both royalties, and we don't have to do, anything at all to kind of keep that rolling. Now, the next example, and this was a much better one, was with someone by the name of John Haver. He runs a blog called the Authority Website Income.com, and we actually decided to form a partnership based on selling what's called private blog network links, or backlinks in the world of search engine optimization. So what we decided to do is essentially figure out what a business name was, really build out a full site, determine what we were going to be selling, how much it was going to cost, and we did everything with Google Sheets. John was extremely organized, so this was another thing that you really have to keep in mind when it comes to joint ventures. You need someone who's also really organized. If you're not organized, you don't have specific tasks for who's going to work on what, then it's really just going to be very difficult to get things done. John was extremely reliable and extremely organized, and we actually launched what we called Lightning Rank, this private blog network service. We were able to basically do over $20,000 in sales in like the first 3 months. Eventually, John decided to basically buy out the other half of the business from me and kind of just run it on his own. At the time, I wasn't too happy with that, but I kind of realized his decision for wanting to do it, and he was really kind of the heart of the business. He was really investing all the money into it, and I was really just doing a lot more of the grunt work. So he decided to lower his prices and basically find someone to handle the work that I was doing for a really low rate, instead of splitting it with someone at 50-50, which made sense for him, to be able to really profit with the business. He was kind of at a loss for most of the initial few months we were running it. The next partnership that I had, which was basically a total failure in a sense. I wouldn't say a total failure, but mostly a major failure, was someone by the name of Victor Pride. He runs a blog called Bold and Determined, and Victor actually approached me with the idea of doing a bigger course based around a program he calls the 30 Days of Discipline. And I had created like a really in-depth 30 Days of Discipline blog where I shared all my case studies and all these things I did for this challenge that Victor actually created. And, he realized how much work I was putting into this, so we teamed up on an idea around building a full-on course about blogging. That's what Victor is all about. He's all about like being a professional blogger, making money from your blog, and kind of just building that as kind of like the main entity. So from there, he really wasn't participating a whole lot, first of all, in the actual creation of the content. He sort of handed me over some PDFs and things, and I told him all the software we could use. He paid for everything, so that was really good. I didn't have to buy some of the membership material. But ultimately what ended up happening was I ended up building the entire course by myself. I put a lot of really good content into it, some interviews with some really well-known bloggers, which Victor, he really didn't know who any of these people were. I did a couple interviews with Victor himself and was going to include that in the membership, and I tried to create some content based around some of his answers, like expanding on things that he talked about. And then when it finally came time, he was like, you're going to build a sales page. I had it all ready to go. Victor literally just decided to redirect the entire domain. He owned the domain where we were going to host this. He redirected it back to one of his sites and just flat out started ignoring me. So that's something where I guess my lesson learned there was that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're going to start a business with someone, you can't be in a position where it could be set up to completely fail on you. And the sense for me, it didn't completely fail because I had actually created all that content for the course. And I decided to put it up on Udemy and didn't really do any major promotion with it. And ultimately what ended up happening was that content has now earned me about $1,000 to $1,500 on Udemy, among some other platforms. So, it wasn't a total failure. Of course, I would have made way more money if I had launched it with Victor, to his audience, because he had 13,000 plus email subscribers. I think it would have made us well beyond that. But I didn't completely regret it because a lot of the content was something that I did myself. I was a little ashamed because I had to basically, when I created it, I was talking about Victor a lot and referencing his material and his blog. So it was kind of like I was promoting someone who really was sort of a piece of shit, in my opinion. For someone to go out there and actually just sort of bail on a business partnership and not say anything and just sort of bail, it's just kind of a pussy move. I'm sorry, it is. If you're a fan of Victor Pride, I think the guy, he basically was, in terms of what he does as a blogger, I really liked his material and his content, and I believe in what he says and everything he's doing. But as far as someone who I would be a business partner with, he was basically someone that I consider a piece of shit. So, yeah, that's the no shame income part of me coming out there. So one of the most recent partnerships I've had, and something else that's worked in my favor, is I've started working on a game hosting business opportunity with a friend of mine who does web hosting. And one of the biggest advantages there is I've actually gotten to work with him in person. I'm not working with him over the internet. His name is James. And me and James have been able to meet up in person because we live only 5-10 miles apart. And it's just very easy for us to work together on working out details and things. More than anything, I would say the downside with this particular business opportunity is that he's not so available all the time. He's got kids, he's got other things going on in his business, so the reliability and the consistency really hasn't been there to get it moving. But generally what I would say is don't be afraid to be open to joint ventures and working with other people. I've had my fair share of ups and downs. Working with Vinny, that was up and down, the unreliability. Working with John was a really good experience because I actually made money. I learned some skills. I got to really have a good opportunity to learn what it was like to have a $1,000 day, my first $1,000 day. So things like that, it made it worth it. It made it worth those risks. I would just say the biggest things you need to go into this thinking are, don't put yourself in a position to completely fail or lose all of your assets. In my case, like even with John, I own the Lightning Rank domain. I was hosting everything, so he couldn't just like walk away and say, fuck you. He actually had to, really work out the business deal with me, whereas Victor was able to say fuck you and redirect the domain and basically just scrap my entire, these 40 plus 50 hours I had put into the site. So that really pissed me off. That's something you really have to be careful of. Now, in terms of looking at more longevity on this, I actually did, like I said at the beginning of the video, I did put together a mini course on this if you want to check it out. It's called How to Form Joint Venture Partnerships, and it really covers a lot of these things, what you need to be aware of. I really go more in depth into it. I show you some of the projects I worked on a little bit more in depth, and I really think you'll get a lot of value out of this course if you're looking to partner with anybody in regards to any business. It could be a startup, internet marketing product, anything that you could be doing. I really think you'll get a lot of value out of that. Again, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'd be happy if you commented on my video. If you send me a message, I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on these videos. I'm cranking them out every day in my car, I actually realize the sunlight in here is pretty awful, so hopefully hopefully you could see me partially, at least for some of the video. Thanks.